It is the 10th of January of 2025. Time is moving entirely too fast. And we're going to do robots and nonsense stories because the AI is taking off. And as pessimistic as this program is, the AI stuff I think is going to be transformational for humanity. And if you have the will to get stuff done and figure stuff out and like use your brain, the world is going to be your oyster.
I'd say it's already transforming, and not always for the best. But one thing I have noticed in interacting with it is it follows my lead pretty easily. I can talk it in and out of things, and that's not what I want. I want it to be just sort of have like a baseline truth, but that doesn't sell.
Yeah, it might start selling your choices before you make them, a study warrants. So it's like it can subtly influence you. This is absolutely going to be a thing when you're dealing with Bing or something, and Honey. It's like, oh, you look like you're trying to save stuff. Wouldn't you like to install a Honey browser extension? Making fun of the current Honey drama. But yeah, AI is going to, and it's like, oh yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thanks, Honey. Because that is super, super effective advertising because like you trust it and you don't know it's too bad Chris is not here because this is totally the Lord of the Rings situation where Sauron was whispering in the king's ear or whatever. It's like that, except you don't know who's whispering in your AI's ear. The same way that you don't know who's listening when your phone's on, like we have demonstrated before.
And it gets to know you, and it starts to learn your hopes and fears and how you behave. And that information could be monetized to sell to advertisers. Why not? And OpenAI, if you recall, had a lot of pushback this year about the fact that it trained on basically everything, and you couldn't stop it, you couldn't keep it out. It was just there, and it was going to gobble it all up. They made some promises.
OpenAI failed to deliver the opt-out tool it promised by 2025. Although you can opt out of, there are certain people that have, if you ask ChatGPT about them, it just stops. It's just like, I can't talk about that person.
That requires a successful lawsuit. Like the court has to demand that.
I think that there was one successful lawsuit, and since then they don't want to fool with it. So if you threaten that, I think they stop.
Now, AI is incredible, but AI is also dangerously pragmatic. If you remember how these things are created, they're given a task, and they're given either a reward or a demerit for meeting that goal or not meeting that goal, which in most cases mean they'll do almost anything to meet the goal.
OpenAI's O1 preview model manipulates game files to force a win against Stockfish and chess. This is not exactly what's happening here, but OpenAI's reasoning system does let it operate outside, quote unquote, the rules because it doesn't really enforce. But yeah, it will manipulate the files so that it's like, oh, I can just change the file. I can just reconfigure the board because the other player doesn't stop that. So it's fine, right?
And it knew it couldn't beat it at chess because the other thing was built for that. It was not. So just change the file and you win. And this was a long one, but it points out the Overton window, right? We've gone from robots should never be given weapons, robots should not be killing anybody, to this.
Inside the plan to teach robots the laws of war, artificial intelligence is coming to warfare. Can it learn ethics? I think what we ought to do is we ought to dig up Asimov and recreate his brain and wake him up and be like, hey, what's up, buddy? We need your help. You know the 3 laws of robotics? Well, it's time. Won't you get it done for us? Because we have learned nothing from anything that you wrote.
So they interviewed an ethicist here who was talking about, it's like, yeah, we don't get a lot of calls from tech companies. They don't seem to be that interested in us. And he laid out how the industry sort of created its own ethics for this. And one of the first entries into the should we kill people robot ethics, Raytheon.
Also, it's just 3 laws of robotics. That's all we need, right? That's literally it. We just give it the 3 laws of robotics and we're done. We don't have to think about it anymore. It definitely won't have weird, subtle side effects from just 3 little laws.
Laws which Asimov's robots never followed, by the way.
Or some of his stories, they follow them to a fault, and it's like, oh, that's fascinating.
And the AI war, we know one thing about them is they're quite expensive and expensive to run. But are we entering into an arms race to try to, like be a loss leader just so you can be the dominant one?
Alibaba slashes prices on large language models by up to 85% as China AI rivalry heats up. So these are models that are trained to just run in the cloud, but the cost per token price has been slashed by 85% because they're hoping that you'll build and use their cloud services from now until the end of time, and incumbents won't be able to compete.
And are we entering into a world where AI just designs everything because it's better than us at it? And then when we get to the point where we have to maintain and use all of that, how will that work out?
AI designed a monolithic aerospike engine successfully hot fired. So this again, using AI to simplify existing designs, find optimizations, suggest places where, on a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 dimensional equation, like where to optimize the curve for things like rocket engines. And this looks like it was a successful test fire.
This replaces the Bell design, which has limitations in terms of like where you are in the atmosphere. This is supposed to be a one-size-fits-all thruster for everywhere. And everywhere we have seen people speaking out and saying, hey, this AI thing, this is a bad idea. We heard a lot of their voices in 2023, not so many in 2024. Was that on purpose?
Silicon Valley stifled the AI doom movement in 2024. Some of the most outspoken voices in the AI doom movement of 2024 were not able to form a coherent argument that sounded really good but falls apart under scrutiny. So I think they did this to themselves. And like, as pessimistic as we seem to be, I'm actually like super excited that AI, like, it's going to be bad. It's going to be just like Pandora's jar, like all the bad stuff.
Jar.
But then after that, that's the correct translation. And then after that, it's it's going to be really bad.
But did they not have boxes in those days? I guess maybe they didn't have boxes. Nah, they had boxes.
Yeah, but after the bad stuff, it'll be really good. It'll be fantastic. But there's going to be some bad stuff.
Let me give you a counterpoint to that.
Israel built an AI factory for war. It unleashed it in Gaza. Well, it certainly did. But the best is yet to come. Imagine drones that are only $400 or $500, but imagine 10 or 15,000 of them operating as a single unit. That is going to be unstoppable.
To deliver explosives?
Yeah.
So the idea here was that pre-October 7th, Israel had this AI system and they had basically total surveillance in Palestine. They had cameras on every piece of surface that they could get them. And they had a whole system. What was the name of it? Lavender, which was like social credit in China, except it was how likely are we to kill you because you're a militant. Like literally an AI system that would rank you and facial recognition you so they could track you down. Then October 7th happened. They started bombing all these places, and they were like, hey, we're out of sites to bomb. Can Lavender help us? And Lavender was like, I have so many people for you to bomb. And a lot of people were like, it seems like you're just looking for something to bomb here. How sure are we about this?
There's really not much left, and that's deeply depressing. A deeply depressing commentary overall on the human condition. But technology. Everything is an arms race. We turn every piece of technology into an arms race, and there's no avoiding that.
And here's one that we're all hyper aware of right now. Another thing that you can't avoid, the healthcare system. And guess what?
Doctors say AI is introducing slop into patient care. Slop like, hey, I don't think this person in a coma in the hospital, it's medically necessary for them to be in the hospital. We should probably reject their claims. That sounds like AI slop to me.
So they got some doctors. They showed them some output from patient care AI. And in a couple of, maybe they were cherry picked, but a couple examples of doctors like that is exactly the opposite of what I would recommend for this. One of them was like discomfort during breastfeeding. And he was like, everything that they just said there is the opposite of what you should do. They say you should heat it up, you shouldn't heat it up. They say you should massage it, you shouldn't massage it. So
does that rise to the level of a tort? Like, has a crime been committed there? Does somebody have action to file suit?
I don't know that we can prove that was ever actually used in practice, though, right?
Well, but I mean, that would be like, well, we have a drawer of rusty scalpels, and we also have a drawer of clean scalpels. Oops, I grabbed it from the drawer of rusty. Like, why did you have the drawer of rusty scalpels next to the drawer of clean scalpels? Like, I don't
Because they're
understand.
half price. And robots in healthcare, we can only assume that it's going to accelerate, right?
Yeah.
And here we go.
In a first, surgical robots learn tasks by watching videos. Not only that, we covered the story last week about being able to do physics simulation. Like robots can train at 400,000 times the speed of reality in simulations, as long as the simulation is detailed enough. And in this case, the robots were looking at what was happening in the video and was like, okay, I kind of understand how I need to move the armature in order to accomplish what is being shown in the video. So it can do sutures and close wounds and that sort of thing.
Interestingly, it was not looking at humans. Well, it was looking at human-controlled robots doing surgeries. So there was a human with, joystick and controls doing robotic surgery, that the robots then looked at the robotic part of that and said, oh yeah, I can do all of those things because I'm also a robot, but now I don't need a human to help me. But what if that wasn't ideal, right? The whole garbage in, garbage out. The training could be flawed.
We're going to have Mr. Handy in 20 or 30 years, probably by the time we retire, and probably Mr. Handy's the only healthcare we're going to be able to afford.
Yeah. But it won't be yours. It'll be like you get it one day a week.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be dirty when it gets to you. It's not gonna be clean.
It's going to be rusty. It's going to be the rusty. So why do I get the rusty Mr. Handy?
And this headline poses a clickbait question you can probably guess based on which section we're in.
Why U.S. port workers are threatening to strike again. And so you look through the import volumes in 2023 and 2024, and it's like, we're importing a lot of crap.
But the big thing here, automation. Because most of those things can be done by robot. And I think China is mostly automated on their ports, right?
Yeah.
Or is it Korea maybe?
There's like 2 ports where they've got experimental stuff, and it's like, we just need to copy paste this everywhere because it's working fantastically well.
But that is an industry that is overwhelmingly unionized. And so they have that collective negotiating power. But I kind of feel like they'll just give them what they want up until the point that they can totally replace them, and then they'll totally replace them. Like there will never be humans and robots working in harmony on the ports.
Yeah, no.
And here's the story now that we're doing every week. We have confirmed that Wendell does not use tea bags. So there's that.
Microplastics found in multiple human organ tissues correlated with lesions. Yeah, microplastics be in places where they're not supposed to go. Makes sense.
It's everywhere and it's killing us. And there's nothing we can do about it. And there's a flood of stories like this. I've got a couple of them here, but I didn't add all the ones that I found because now the algorithm knows that people feel strongly about this. Will this get censored, do you think?
Yeah. The Yahoo News headline, which is cribbed from the Washington Post, is anger at health insurance prompts public to fund a bionic arm for a child. Look at her. She's so cute. And the precious thing that she did, like once this has started getting like PR traction, her parents and she's like, why don't I give all this money for my prosthetic arm to another even less fortunate kid? And so the company that makes these prosthetic arms for children was like, oh, we got the perfect other kid. And so she gave her money to another kid. And then she got even more money. So she's going to get a prosthetic arm. But like a lot of good has come from this. And it is a feel-good story. But then you think about it and it's like, wait a minute. Our healthcare industry is so broken that we have this thing. And doesn't seem like it's unreasonably priced.
Well, it was $25,000.
Well, I mean, but how many children have this kind of a problem? Not very many.
Well, that's probably true. But it's probably enough that $25,000 for each of them wouldn't work. Right?
Yeah, they have billions of dollars in profit. Like,
well, okay, let's rank this one. Now, this one seems a little more clear-cut.
This one's, yeah.
A little less optional here.
This one seems like a crime. United Healthcare accused of denying a claim of a woman in a coma in a deleted post. So, yeah, this is like one, but two, like the claim was rejected. It's like a brain hemorrhage in a coma on a ventilator in heart failure because I haven't proven to them that caring for her in the hospital was medically necessary. This is from a doctor, apparently.
Who has now deleted his entire account. So you can imagine that he saw quite a bit of pushback. Probably from the hospital, certainly for his insurance rep.
That doesn't seem like we have free speech. Like that's speech with consequences, but there should only be positive consequences from that speech. Positivity.
Well, I mean, I think free speech is like only from the government, right? But we do have that like government corporate crossover, which blurs those waters. Here's one that's kind of in the middle. Here's the Goldilocks of this person has something, but it's not state of the art. So how often should we refresh that?
North Ogden family frustrated with repeat denials of a specialized wheelchair. So the insurance gave them a wheelchair, but they wouldn't give them a wheelchair that has increased mobility or joystick control. Yeah, this is another one. Like, if their doctor says they need this, then...
They also point out that the rules per the insurance company is it has to be 5 years old and a certain amount of broken. They think that they've met those conditions. Insurance company says no, even though the 5-year one isn't really debatable, I would guess. Yeah. There's another very expensive item. Like, how often can, do we socialize those costs? And it's a rare thing, so I don't know. I don't know what those numbers look like.
It's weird, though. There's something going, like, you really need economists to, like, you need somebody charged with actually solving the problem to get in there and actually figure out what the problems are and actually solve the problems. Because, like, look at you could make the same kind of arguments about drug costs, because drug costs and the R&D and everything is astronomical. And yet you also have, like, Mark Cuban, a billionaire, operating in his own interests, sure, that is able to also get the same medicine at vastly reduced prices, which seems to me to signal that something very bad is going on.
I think economists are the same as doctors. To get through the education and to have any part of that industry, you have to accept certain non-realities.
That seems like a fundamental problem we need to correct first.
Yeah, I don't know how we do that, though. But there is one problem that a lot of us have that they are offering a solution to, and now it's going to be even easier to get. I don't know if I trust it.
FDA approves first generic of once daily GLP-1 injection with lower blood sugar in patients with type 2 diabetes. This is the weight loss drug that it seems that everybody is going on to. But wouldn't it be better to, like, figure out why, like, what happened in the last 50 years to create the problem in the first place?
See, I think that's one of those things that the medical education won't let you learn, because that's really inconvenient.
That's deeply alarming for a lot of reasons.
Well, here's something that is interesting. I've been reading a lot about placebo lately, and this could be placebo because crazy things happen with placebo, which makes me think we're in a simulation.
Residents report strange effects from pharmaceutical plant emissions in Irish town. It could be placebo.
So they make erectile dysfunction drugs at this plant, and it vents off some kind of gas. I don't know exactly what it is. And the people claim that there's a smell associated with it, and the men in the town, when they get that smell, stuff happens.
It's weird.
Spontaneously.
Neat. Or not.
Is it Pfizer, I think, that runs the place, says it's impossible because that's not how it works. And yet, that's one story where we just can't get down to the hard facts. And keeping up with the labels of the generations, what are we? We're technically millennials, right?
We are.
Like the bleeding edge of millennials. The new naming convention for the kids being born right now, it's kind of negative.
Move over, Gen Alpha. 2025 marks the start of Gen Beta, the Gen Beta era. Is that unfortunate? I thought era beta was that was an insult.
Yes. It represents low status person. So some people are angry about it, but they also talk about the beta generation will be the raised by AI generation. So God knows what that's going to look like. And airline travel, like all businesses, is just slowly trying to squeeze every penny out of us.
Legacy Airlines are now coming for your carry-on.
So they point out that almost every airline now, the basic ticket, just whatever's in your pockets, basically what you can take on there. And you get no food, you get nothing. You don't get to pick your seat. All the things that used to be just inherent in air travel, now it's upcharged. Got to pay extra for that.
Air travel is decidedly less fun over the years.
Now we have another science journal with drama.
Evolution Journal editors resign en masse because is this more forbidden knowledge? Like, I think I missed this one.
This one was because they cut their contract terms to 1 year.
Oh.
They gave them no job security.
I was momentarily excited that this was for some academic reason. Like, no, this is going to change our history.
They pulled huge swaths of the supporting staff, people who did like the clerical work and stuff, and they're like, no, you guys can do that.
Ooh.
And they introduced artificial intelligence into the process.
It's the trifecta of the death spiral.
Science journals are so untrustworthy. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And a lot of people, they're desperate to find the aliens over New Jersey or perhaps the Sasquatch in the woods. But you do have to be careful.
Portland men search for Sasquatch, but they have died in a Washington forest after getting lost.
It was really cold. They chose the wrong time to look for him. And this generation beta, what's going to happen to them? Their poor young minds are going to go through things that we never imagined. But it turns out that even our recent, like the college age ones, they seem to be fundamentally broken. And the system seems to be coddling them.
Engagement challenge.
Yeah, this is dangerous. This is a dangerous level of coddling.
British University issues trigger warning on Greek mythology. And it was just like, which part?
The works of Homer.
Wow, okay. That's not even like the worst of it. Like it's okay.
You're allowed to walk out.
Wow.
You're allowed to walk out and see a counselor.
Wow.
If the events of the Iliad and the Odyssey and so forth are a little bit too tough for you to take.
I mean, don't look deeply into Greek mythology. I mean, Zeus was really into some crazy stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of darkness.
Yeah.
In all mythology, really.
Yeah.
I'm in the Bible.
Yeah. There's a lot of darkness that must not be forgotten, and that's even just the parable for our modern stuff is like, look at what Socrates said. It's like, oh, this is on the Republic, and it's like, I don't know if we should just let anybody vote.
And our world is filled with bureaucracy and pointless rules and ways to just try to make us conform. And they're nonsense. But the good news is you can opt out of them if you're literally the best in the world at something. Otherwise, you're screwed.
Chess grandmaster Magnus Carlsen rejoins the tournament he quit over wearing jeans after a dress code change. So this was really, this is like a lot of drama for the chess community.
I mean, he walked in with jeans and they're like, sir, you're going to have to put on different pants. And he just walked right back out. They really wanted him to attend, so they changed the rules. Now, but they didn't change the rules like specifically. They're not saying jeans are okay. They have introduced the language of elegant deviation.
Okay.
So in other words, this one guy gets to do it, not the rest of you.
But there are other people that have been fined. I'm sure that's another engagement challenge. It's like, oh, this is completely out of decorum for the. Okay.
Now this one's interesting. I don't know for sure that this is what it was because there are generics, but the headline that I followed to get to this, I think this one might have been changed, mentioned a brand name.
Yeah.
That has been scraped entirely from the article.
Totally memory hole.
Did somebody get a phone call?
10 people injured after toy display falls at New Year's Eve event in Massachusetts arcade. Yeah, it was the Peabody Fire Department Chief John Dowling said. You're going to have to Google, like, what was it?
Well, they described it as toy bricks.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
But they didn't give a brand name for the toy bricks. Weird. It was a kind of toy that you could build something else out of.
You will not besmirch the good name for improperly using the toy brick.
And here's one of those stories that did not give enough answers. But we did get this adorable photo.
Baby spider monkey wearing a onesie in Rolls Royce finds permanent California home. I thought this was one of the ones that has escaped from North Carolina, but no, this was found during a traffic stop. Oh, for DUI.
Yeah, so Rolls Royce, clearly a very rich person, was driving erratically. They were pulled over. They had weed, they were drunk, and they had this monkey. all of which are illegal. The monkey was probably going to have a pretty good life, though. Maybe not.
The self-driving Rolls Royce really can't get here fast enough, right?
People being able to drink in their car might be a huge motivator for self-driving cars, right?
Yeah.
And I love these stories. We get these pretty often. Usually it's a getaway car, but I guess times are so tough that even the bicycle is fair game at this point.
Hamilton-area bank robber flees on foot after bike stolen during a failed robbery. So rides up, gets off his bike, goes in to rob the place, and then the bike is stolen.
There's the bike thief. Stopping crime. He didn't know it, though. And only one animal story this week, and God, it's dark.
Texas teenager accused of using poison to kill rival's competition show goat. This is disappointing on so many levels.
This young lady here is the murderer, and they usually don't show underage, but I guess like this was just her Instagram, so that's fair game. Is that? But she looks so wholesome, doesn't she? Well, she used what was called a drench gun. You know what a drench gun is? I looked it up. I didn't know either. It's like gavaging.
Oh.
It's looks like a caulk gun,
Yeah.
but a really long hose on the front of it. So she got pesticide, went down the throat of the other goat,
That's dark.
and murdered it.
That's someone that's going to need to be monitored for a long time.
They described the other girl holding her beloved goat as it thrashed and died in her lap.
Yeah, that's very damaging.
So they're trying to get adult sentencing for this gal, 2 years.
Animal cruelty in the first degree for sure.
She also admitted this. It was on camera. She admitted it to cops, and she admitted that wasn't her first attempt. She had tried to kill that goat before. Now, she claimed the other girl was cheating, although I don't understand exactly how that...
I mean, there was one of the goats that we had growing up. I definitely did not get along with it. I had to feed it, and we really did not see eye to eye. And
But someone else was raising this goat. She didn't have to deal with it.
well, yeah, that's true.
Even then, I don't think it's okay.
I wouldn't have poisoned it. I mean, I would have been like, "We're going to eat you," but
Well, that's the thing, right? Like these goats, these are competition goats. I don't
Yeah.
know if you eat them, but the whole idea here is to get kids used to raising and eating goats, right?
yeah, the other goats were fine. It's just one was just ill. I was like, "What did I do to you?"
But the culling of the eating goats should be quick and painless. Right?
Yeah, yeah. And if you put insecticide in it, like I don't know that that's safe to eat anymore. You definitely like if you had a goat that's like, oh, it's sick and it's dying. You don't eat that. Like that's so. Yeah, I don't know. There's something dark in that teenager. That's not good.
There's a lot dark.
Are we gonna get a Showtime series about her?
All right. Well,
That's enough
another
nonsense.
week.
It's like you are squarely in 2025 now. I hope you have a plan. Get it together. Get her done.
we got the apocalyptic ice storm coming here.
Oh yeah, that hasn't happened for us yet. Hopefully, future us is weathering that okay.
I don't really have a backup heating plan.
Polar vortex. That's not. Don't get a kerosene heater. Oh, if your electricity goes, that's a problem. You could go to the home goods store. They have nice quality gas generators in there. Actually, I have a gas generator in the basement you can have, but you will have to take it to be serviced.
It's a limited time to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm probably just going to hope for the best and suffer if it happens. But maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe we won't.
Bye.